by Jeremy Temple Law Office of Bloomington. Personal injury, criminal, business, whatever you need, Jeremy Temple Law Office will get you taken care of.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin yang, come along.
Well, come along and welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary here on this Monday. It is already April 6th. I cannot believe it. Todd O'Leary, how are you doing, man?
Oh, just peachy, man.
It's going to be nice out there today, so definitely going to be, I know where Todd O'Leary is going to be after a while for certain. We got lots to talk to, plenty to get to on the show today. Great day is the Indiana All-Stars have been announced. We'll get to that, but fortunately we've got Kyle Neddenriep from the Indianapolis Star who covers that beat on us with us today. Also, the game director, the Indiana All-Star game director, Mike Broughton, former state championship coach, is going to be on with us as well, so looking forward to that. Lots to get to, Todd O'Leary. Still stuff going on, man. You got Ashton Hagans from UK going pro. You got grad transfers all over the place. We lost Tom Dempsey. A lot of people don't remember him. I do because, as a young kid, I was really into reading stuff and all that, and he set the field goal record in the NFL in 1970. And this guy did it with half a foot.
Wasn't that the square toe guy?
Yes, he was born without toes and kicked like a 63-yarder that stood for, I think, 28 years until, I think, 98. Then it was tied. And then in 2013, it was Matt Prater broke it with a 64-yarder. But, man, dude, you set a record in 1970 in any sport, and it lasts that long? That's incredible. And,
yeah, especially when you look at, like, the size of – how athletes have transitioned to being so much bigger. You just expect that record to have been broken a long time ago out of pure strength and conditioning out of guys nowadays. But, the interesting part of him is first time I ever saw an interview with him that I can remember was Peyton Manning did a thing on field goal kickers on that show that he does, Peyton's Places or whatever it was. It's on ESPN now.
Yep.
So I just watched it like a month ago. And it was interesting because Peyton was kind of putting a funny spin on it, but he actually spent some time with him and he had the old shoe. He brought the actual shoe he used to kick with. And
man,
it was cool. It was a cool
wow.
thing to see.
I got to see that. I saw one. I've never seen him, but I don't have that. So he's almost worth it all by himself.
He is.
He is just a funny dude. I watched one that he did yesterday. I got to see, but wow, that would be an incredible one to see. But yeah, I grew up. I was a Rams fan when I was a little kid, and it was just fun watching. He played for the Saints, of course, but which, of course,
that's how he knew Peyton Manning's dad. You're right. Yep.
Takes that back. So a great combination there. But I hate to see that, but
you gave the titles, you gave the topics a minute ago, and you skimmed right over one. What were the topics you gave again?
Talk about Ashton Hagans.
Bingo. That pro. One. He went pro a long time ago. Didn't you see that video?
Yeah, exactly.
He went pro. He went pro. He's just been playing for the University of Kentucky.
Flashing the dough, yo. Yeah, it was.
You got to have what was it? Say you got to have shoe money, shoebox money, or something.
Oh man, that's hilarious. Carlik Jones, one of the top grad transfers in the country from Radford. He's the Player of the Year in the Big South. 20 points a game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Shot 41% from three. Expected to start next year, and he transferred to Louisville. So they're that's a great get. But it's funny, guys like Carlik Jones, all right, he's coming from Radford. Okay, that's obviously he was not recruited very highly. Right. And now he is so sought after by the best teams in the country to make them the best. It's so funny. And this shows you how inexact the recruiting and all that stuff is, because here's the guy that everybody wants more than anybody. And he was who was recruiting him a few years ago.
Right. You're exactly right with that. I mean, it's those guys. Plus, here would be the art of recruiting is to go in and find the guys who are just at the point of starting to get better. And here's the overall key. You got to find some guys that have a couple of attributes, and they got to be either tall, long arms, or they got to be super quick, or they got to be able to shoot really well. They've got to have something that makes them stand out. And then you need to find guys that have the ability to get a lot better. I mean, Juwan Morgan's a perfect example. You can go to an AAU tournament. You could find a lot of guys that are 6'6" or 7, but you can't. Some of those guys are super skilled, and obviously they've got offers to go everywhere. And then you got guys that you see have the ability to get a lot better, and those are the guys you can go get that are probably 2 and 3 stars only because of their height. And if you can get those guys to develop when they come to your program, that's when you get those diamonds in the rough. I mean, Victor Oladipo was somewhat highly ranked, but not super highly ranked. And,
he was like a 3-star. Right.
And he, he had a great work ethic. So you got to pair up. Recruiting is not just going to a gym and watching who are the best players and making offers. I mean, that's not what it is. And finding, this is why Coach Knight was so good for so long, in my opinion, because if he walked in the gym and saw the best players, I guarantee you in his mind, it would be a challenge to him to find the guys that nobody's recruiting and take those guys and beat the guys that that everybody wants. I mean, that was the challenge to him.
The greatest saying, one of my favorite sayings of all time, sports sayings, it was from Bum Phillips, former coach of the Houston Oilers back in the day, 70s NFL football. I forget who he was talking about, but he was talking about a coach, and he was paying great respect to him. And he said, he can take his'n and beat urine, or take urine and beat his'n.
Yeah. You're the only person I've heard quote that. And I looked it up after you said that, and it's a great quote, and you can use that in so many different.
It's one of my favorites.
It is. I'm telling you, Coach Knight. I can't remember what year it was. It was pretty early on. I'd say it really could have been my freshman year. I can't remember, but he sat in the locker room and he was looking around at all of us. And the Big Ten was incredibly loaded. And we were not one of those teams that was incredibly loaded. We had 7 new freshmen. And he looked around the locker room and he took off of Michigan's roster, he took their players 8 through 13 and said, I can take these 8 players and beat that Michigan team that they have, but I can't take our top 5 players and beat the Michigan team that they have coming in. So I know it was one of the things that he looked at all the time of he wanted to take lesser talented players and beat, insane great athletes, and especially beat the coaches on the other sideline with lesser talent. I think that was the fun to him.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a later segment after Kyle's on, because that goes right along with something else I saw yesterday that just, oh my gosh, it just made me laugh and boil at the same time. Jalen Rose, there's been a rift between the Fab Five, but mainly between Jalen Rose and Chris Webber. That comes down to Chris Webber's cheating, for one thing, that caused a lot of problems, and that's been part of it. But I'm seeing that's possibly thawing. But the biggest thing is I saw yesterday that Jalen Rose wants to hang a banner for the Fab Five. And I'm like, well, just win one, baby. You didn't win jack.
I mean, you know what? If they hung a Final Four banner at IU, like a specific banner just for us making the Final Four, it would almost be embarrassing. You know what? If you don't win it, you don't get a banner. It's just that simple. They never won a Big Ten.
They didn't win jack
or an NCAA. Now, making the final game 2 years in a row, that's incredible. But they didn't win. That's just the bottom line.
Didn't win anything. We'll talk about that later. But some other news as well we'll talk about. Jory Allen, one of the biggest recruits for Indiana women's basketball last year, Miss Basketball in the state of Indiana, from Bedford, hitting the transfer portal, leaving a good Indiana program. So obviously not working out for her the way she'd like for it to have worked out. She played quite a bit last year. I was a little surprised to see that. I mean, you usually don't see one of your better players, like your 6th or 7th man, as a freshman who plays a lot on a really good team, leave.
Yeah, you don't. And, here's I never, ever, ever judge a kid for leaving a program. And it's not that the coaches are bad. It's not that the player's bad. It's not that they have a bad attitude. They're truly, the fit of that is something. That's why I do agree with that one rule of you get one transfer, because you just don't know what it's like. The recruiting part of coming there, I'll never forget. We had a player that came in after I recruited him. I took him on his recruiting visit when he came in, and he sat me down a year later, and he sat across from me, and he said, "Why did you lie to me? Why would you have brought me into this?" Because it was just that hard. It was that difficult. But nobody ever talks about that. All they talk about is all the fun parts of being there on a recruiting visit. But, I don't blame her at all. We don't know the details. That doesn't mean she's a head case. It doesn't mean the program sucks. It doesn't mean any of that. It truly it's not the right fit for her, obviously, in her mind. And I don't blame kids for that. Now, when you get kids that go to 4 schools in 4 years, yeah, there's probably a problem there.
Yeah, it's just sad to see, but obviously, like I said, I have no idea what was going on there, but
we should get him on. I got no reason to hide his identity. We should get him on here someday. You want to know who that was that said that to me?
I do.
Robbie Eggers.
Get him on. He's a good one.
I know he is a good one. He sat across from me at Mustard. Do you remember Mustard's restaurant?
Oh yeah, it's been a minute.
He sat across from me and he just looked at me and he's like, he wanted to go out to lunch, and I was like, "Oh, sure, okay." And he just looks at me and he goes, "Man, there's something I got to ask you." And I'm like, "What?" He said, "Why would you have lied to me about what it's like here?" Like,
everybody lied. So I got lied to.
Nobody. Yeah,
everybody lied.
Nobody sits you down and tells you, okay,
you can't tell the truth.
This is how tough it's going to be. Yeah, if I'd have done that, they'd have killed me.
Yeah, you can't tell the truth. That's funny. One of those deals. But then you go back and sorry, dude, but they did it to me too.
Right.
But that's just how it is. But yeah, I just found that very interesting about the Fab Five and all that. So we'll talk about that later. But Joriani, hate to see that. But
I do hate to see that, especially because it's so close to her home.
Yeah. And then today with the All-Star team being announced, the boys All-Star team, that is, of course, that means Mr. Basketball following behind that shortly at some point. Indiana looking to potentially lock down their 3rd consecutive Mr. Basketball, which would be a first. And if they can get that done, I don't want to get out in front of us, but next year we're going to be looking at Indiana potentially drawing 4 straight, because Trey Kaufman obviously is going to be the leader in the clubhouse for that award next year. He's already won the Player of the Year as a junior from Gatorade. So, but yeah, looking to see, we'll be talking about the All-Star team as that has been announced. Both Trey Galloway, Anthony Leal, both on that team, of course, many others as well. But Mr. Basketball not yet announced. The highest point or vote getter from the All-Star ends up being Mr. Basketball. And but we'll get to talk to Kyle Neddenriep from the Indianapolis Star here this morning, so looking forward to that. He has covered all of these guys extensively for the Indianapolis Star. And then later, of course, Mike Broughton, the executive director for the Indiana All-Star Game itself, former coach here in the state champion on top of that. So we got lots coming up, man. Looking forward to it all. Well, we'll be back with Kyle Neddenriep right back here to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary. Make sure you go to thehoosier.com, indiana.rivals.com. Sign up, get yourself a free account there, as everything is being ported there. So you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals. And we're back with more right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Ryan Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
You're on the line with Jamal Meeks, former Indiana Hoosier, number 23, 1992. And I'm on the beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary here on this Monday. It's April 6th, joined now by Kyle Neddenriep from the Indianapolis Star. Kyle, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
Well, we're getting by, man. It's a weird time for all of us, of course. You as well, a man who makes his living in sports also when there's no sports, difficult. But we got a little manna from heaven today as the Indiana All-Star team was announced.
Yeah, thank goodness. Had some good news to write about, and I think a 13-player roster that has some good balance to it. You got some good size, and guys who can play the wing, and some versatility, and then some guards who can really fill it up. So I thought when I saw the roster, it looked right to me, as much as you can. Get it right. I know there's always a few guys every year who probably have a good shot, who maybe should have been on the team, but it's always hard because I think all 13 of these guys are well accomplished and deserving players. And I know at this point probably there's probably little chance that they can play a game, but you'll always go down as an all-star, which I think is probably the most important thing of all.
Yeah, I think Todd Leary can speak to that. He knows the importance of doing that, being a former high school player in this state. It's just an honor.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I was so happy that you guys went ahead and went through with that and continued on with naming it, because you're exactly right. I mean, truly, 30 years later, nobody really remembers who won or who did whatever. You're just named as an Indiana All-Star, and it just is. It's one of those honors that you can always take with you. You never forget, and it's a big deal. And I'm super happy that we talked about this a couple of weeks ago and whether they would go ahead and name the All-Star team if they thought they didn't have a chance of playing it. And that's just a credit to you guys. I'm glad that they went through and did that.
Yeah. Well, I know Todd knows this as much as anybody. When you walk into that gym and you see the jersey hanging up at the end of the gym, and you go into, so many gyms I've been into, and I'm always curious. I'm a history buff anyway, and somebody who likes looking back at historical stuff. And you look at those jerseys, and then you want to find out more about. I wonder what that guy did for his career, and it kind of makes you forever ingrained with that school that you played for. And not that there aren't great players who aren't all-stars, and there's guys you look back in history and you wonder how the heck were they not an all-star?
For sure,
but it happens. But for the guys who do get it, again, you're kind of forever ingrained with that school. And I think that's really, like Todd said, I mean, that's what really being an Indiana All-Star, I think, is all about. It's not necessarily, I mean, you want to go beat Kentucky and you have a great time during that week or 2 weeks like it used to be. But I think the bigger thing is just, being a part of that All-Star, forever.
Kyle, I don't think you could be more right, because that takes me back to my childhood. I'm walking into the gym at Floyd Central and seeing these pictures from these kind of old faded color pictures, but these guys were wearing this Indiana All-Star jersey, and it's like, wow, who is that dude? And you look that up and you find out, wow, these are some great players. But it's an honor, and it's an honor that goes back, and it's such a tradition way back in this state. But there's been so much talk about how much talent is in next year's class, Kyle. This class was not exactly devoid of talent.
No, it's a good when you look at this 13-player team, I think it's probably not, if you go much past this, I think there's probably a few guys who had a good case. I'm actually, as we talked here and you called, I was kind of writing a story about some of those guys who I think, I hate to call it a snub list because that means somebody on the team wasn't deserving, but guys who had a good case. And I think there's a few of those, but if you get too much past, 16, 17, it's probably not as deep of a class as next year's will be. And, I think there's that class is just unusually deep. The 2021 class is super, super deep. So that's maybe more of the exception than the rule. But when you look at this team's roster, I mean, you look at guys like, DeAndre Davis from Lawrence Central, who's going to Louisville, Trey Galloway, from Culver Academy. These guys, 6'5", 6'6", Anthony Leal, going to IU, those all good, good size, scoring ability. And this class is probably a little devoid at the point guard spot. Nigel Pack is a really, really good one. He's probably definitely the best in this class. But as far as that goes, that's probably the only thing the depth at the point guard spot you're lacking a little bit. But you look at guys like Kyron Powell from Bosse, who's just a beast. He's not a super skilled offensive player, but man, he blocks shots and rebounds, and I think he'll be a really good college player playing his role. And then Tony Perkins, of course, has had a great year for Lawrence North. Going to Iowa, and I think they kind of snuck in there late and got a steal with Tony because his motor just never stops. So you look up and down, and of course Indiana Wesleyan, they're always sneaking in there, getting a guy maybe you wouldn't expect them to get, and then Tayson Parker from Northwestern, who is a big time scorer and an athlete. So a great job by Greg Tonagel there at Indiana Wesleyan. They always seem to end up with an Indiana All-Star, somehow, and that's why they're such a great program. But again, up and down the roster, I think this is a really good team. I think they did a good job picking this team, and didn't even mention, John L. Davis, who scored more than 2,000 points at Gary 21st, and another really good player who played well against 4A programs all season long. So again, a good team. I think they did a good job picking this team. I didn't have any real, qualms, I guess, with any of the guys that were picked for this group.
Yeah, and you mentioned the point guard situation. Nigel Pack, obviously a really good one, but then you've got a unique situation with Christian Lander, who is attempting to reclassify, probably will, unless that falls through. So he's going to miss out on the opportunity this year to be an All-Star, then, of course, next year as well, unfortunate. And Mr. Basketball for a guy who had a really good shot at all of that, but he'll be giving that up.
Yeah, and I think when I was kind of thinking back to that, and, I guess you have to have your ducks in a row to be able to, sort of reclassify on the fly like that. Caleb Swanigan did that, and he ended up, he basically said between his, sophomore and turned out to be a senior year, he was going to graduate early. So that put him in the running for all this stuff. And he turned out to be Mr. Basketball that year. They ended up winning a state championship. And so he'd reclassified, kind of before the season started. In Christian Lander's case, as I understand it, there's still some things to be worked out as far as that goes. And, so he wasn't, as we went through this year, he was a junior basically. And you're right. I mean, he'd definitely be a guy who'd be one of those top 2 or 3 guys you'd put in the mix for Mr. Basketball, if not number 1. But if that comes to fruition, you kind of miss out on that. And the good thing is he gets to campus early and gets started. But we've seen that happen at times where guys have gone to prep school or whatever, and they've missed out on some of those things as seniors. And that would be the case here. But regardless, another guy who's had a great career, high school career. And, was named a junior all-star this year and obviously very deserving of that honor.
Yeah, and then another thing I see, you got Trey Galloway and Anthony Leal, both on this team, both, of course, going to Indiana, part of a couple of guards coming in there to continue to revamp the roster overhaul for Archie Miller, but 2 really good ones that'll be playing in Bloomington hopefully next fall. Yeah,
and I think Trey Galloway and Anthony Leal are guys who can be a key part of that program. I don't think they're, guys who are going to come in there and light the world on fire or be big time, scoring a ton of points right away. But, guys, when you watch, how well these 2 guys were coached throughout their high school careers. Anthony Leal, you couldn't play for any better coach than J.R. Holmes has been over the years. And a guy who, when you talk to him, he's a great interview, very smart kid. Kind of understands the game, I think, really well and played he wasn't a guy, he didn't have to go out and he had a really good team this year. He didn't have to force a lot of shots or he was a good teammate, I thought. And he'll go down as the all-time scorer of Bloomington South, which is no small accomplishment. And then, Trey Galloway, does everything. He not only can score, he can rebound. He's a great passer, great defensive player. Just plays with a lot of energy and just plays hard. Just knows how to play hard. And he also set his school's career scoring record. And I think the one thing with Galloway, he's had the wrist injuries the last couple of years that have he's kind of played through a lot of pain. So he's a tough kid, but his shooting, probably outside shooting, needs to improve some, but that's really, the only real hole. I think he's a guy who's going to come in and do whatever you want him to do. I think, you don't have any question he's going to, give everything he's got, to be whatever you want him to be as a player. So I think they're getting a hard worker in Galloway and like I said, with Leal, a really smart player who can shoot it and, understands how to play.
Todd, you really like his game.
Yeah, I really do. I mean, I think both of these guys coming in are going to have major contributions earlier in their career. And I don't disagree with what you're saying. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to come in and average 20 like a Calbert Cheney or that. But I do think those guys will both have contributions right off the bat. And barring injuries, there's room for them to come in there and play already on the roster. So I agree with you in all of that assessment. What my first thought when this came out was, okay, what can they do to push the game back and make sure that they get an opportunity to play the actual all-star game? But the more you sit there and think about it, I mean, you alluded to it a minute ago, but it's probably very, very slim chance that they have the opportunity to play this game.
I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah, I think the problem you run into is, they had to move the game this year because of the renovations at Bankers Life to Southport. And, now that the schools have closed, that almost makes that impossible to do in the time frame that you were planning to do the game. So, you take that into account. And then also the Kentucky All-Stars aren't even having their tryouts. So, I don't think they're going to be able to play. Now, they could name a team, kind of like, we do here, which would be different than they normally do it because they normally have a tryout situation and then pick the team from that. And we have the top 100 here, but that's not necessarily a tryout situation. So,
right.
I think you're in kind of a tough window, because a lot of these guys, I've covered this game for 12 years, and I remember after, pretty much right after that Saturday game, guys are leaving the next day to go to their colleges. Now that's probably not going to be the case this year.
That's exactly my thoughts. I thought the exact same thing. Like, this is not something they can push back and have in July even, because I know a lot of these guys are even, maybe they were not going to be able to go to summer schools this year, but I know they're going to try to be on campus as early as possible. And yeah, this is just one of those games that I don't think they're going to have the opportunity to push back and play at a later date.
No, well, and Todd, a couple of years ago, even they switched it back to a Saturday, Sunday, and some of the guys couldn't even play on Sunday because they had to leave to get to school and start their classes and workouts and whatever that Monday. So that became a problem. So you're in that tight of a window. So I just don't know. I don't know what you can do other than put the game out, put the team out there, and then I'm sure at some point here I'm almost positive that the games aren't going to happen this year, and I don't necessarily have a strong feeling that it needs to, as much as it's not makes another thing that's not normal about this whole situation, but. I think the fact that the team is been named and all that, I think, is a good thing, and we might just have to live with that this year.
Yeah, true. The only thing with that, I agree with that 100%, because being 30 years removed from playing in that game, like I don't remember the game part of it hardly at all. Like it's the honor of being on the All-Star team and the other guys. I mean, that would be the cool part, is you get to see some other guys. AAU's different now, so these guys have probably all met each other and played at some point in time against each other. But the actual game itself is not the important part. It's the honor. I'm so glad that you guys went through with that and did that.
Kyle, the jewel yet standing out there, of course, Mr. Basketball yet to be awarded. And obviously there's a couple of guys who are probably kind of up at the top. Anthony Leal, of course, Trey Galloway, Tony Perkins, which some guys we've already talked about. But Indiana looking to land their third consecutive Mr. Basketball, which would be a first for them. They're a pretty good shot for that. I mean, I don't know who it's going to end up being, but I think that Anthony sure got a good shot at it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, and I haven't, we haven't nailed down exactly. We the last few years we've done it at our spring banquet, which is obviously we're not going to have that this year. Would have been, I believe, May 2nd. So, but we're going to name it earlier than that. As far as the dates, I'm not sure yet, but don't know all the vote totals yet and who won. But I think when you look at it, honestly, I think Leal, has a good advantage because he's really the guy, Southern Indiana guy. And sometimes you see how this works where, if there's one region of the state, if there's two guys kind of competing against each other, say if Trey Kaufman would have been a senior this year, you could have two guys competing against each other for votes. I think this year Leal is kind of maybe the only guy in Southern Indiana, who would really get a lot of votes, and maybe Trey Coleman from Jeffersonville gets a few, but I think Leal will kind of dominate the vote there, and then I think Tony Perkins will get a pretty good support from Central Indiana. I think he's had the kind of year where he's deserving of that and led his team. As far as you could take him. That's another thing too, is we didn't get to see how this played out. We didn't get a chance to see, if LN played Bloomington South, that could have helped decide what the Mr. Basketball vote would have been. So that's something to keep in mind too, is we don't know, there was no tiebreaker, necessarily. And I think with Galloway too, they could have been, potentially playing Carmel in the semi-state, which would have been a great game. I think, and not to say they would have just, those teams in the regional were good too, but I think everything kind of pointed to maybe seeing Culver and Carmel and then LN and Bloomington South. And, it makes me sad we didn't get to see those games because those would have been great games if they would have happened. But so keep that in mind too, is we don't know, that other than, some other years, definitely there's been those kind of tiebreaker type of games, and we didn't have those this year. And this year probably needed that, more than other years, because I think it was a really tight race this year. But, I think Leo probably has you would say would have probably a slight advantage over Galloway and Perkins and potentially DeAndre Davis from Lawrence Central. I think he'd have a slight advantage over those guys.
Yeah, you mentioned the regions of the state and how it's probably to Anthony's benefit that Christian Lander is not in the voting this year, because down in Evansville, there's a section of that southern part of the state that you talked about. Probably he may have lost.
That's true too. That's a good point. And if if Lander could have reclassified before the season, I think he would have had a lot of support as well. And I was kind of surprised the Gatorade Player of the Year went to Trey Kaufman. They're not locked into being seniors like Mr. Basketball is. So it was surprising because I thought they would pick a senior. I kind of thought it'd be Leal or Galloway, and they went with Trey Kaufman. So that was interesting, I thought too, when you look at this race this year.
Kyle, I was shocked by that, to be honest with you. Not because he's not a great player. He is, obviously, but there are so many good seniors. You just mentioned two of them, and Tony Perkins and all those other guys as well. Nigel Pack. I mean, those guys are all really, really good. Had good seasons, but they surprised a lot of people going with a junior.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by that too, and it probably locks him into being the guy next year as well. Maybe not locks him in, but makes him the front runner to win Gatorade again, because we've seen, I think it was maybe 4 times previously that it's happened, and all those guys previously had won the following year as well. So I was surprised by that. I wouldn't have thought Trey would be the pick, although I love his game and everything he does, but I didn't think they would take a junior. And you mentioned Pack and Davis, and I think those guys from Lawrence Central probably, when we look back at this, they're going to get overlooked maybe historically a little bit, because Lawrence North beat them 3 times. But, man, those guys the last 3 years were exceptional players at Lawrence Central, and, kind of got that program revived, and they just could not figure out a way to beat Lawrence North. And that was, they go 22-0, against everybody else, and 0-3 against Lawrence North. And that's such an odd thing to have happen. But, man, those guys were so good, for the last 3 years to kind of get that thing going at Lawrence Central and generate a lot of excitement around that program as well.
Kyle, you mentioned one quick thing that's happened 4 or 5 times before where juniors got that. Have any of those guys not won Mr. Basketball as a senior?
That's a good question. I'd have to go back and look at that. I think they all did. When I looked at that, it was Jason Gardner, Damon Bailey, and gosh dang it, I can't remember the others right offhand right now, but it had been a while since it had happened. I think it maybe been 13 or 14 years, and gosh, maybe it was Eric Gordon. Eric Gordon may have been one of them too. So it was kind of a who's list when you looked at it, and all those guys went on to win Gatorade the next year, and I think won Mr. Basketball as well. So I don't know if that necessarily means anything for next year, because, we'll see how it plays out. Caleb First, I think, is a guy who also you need to put in that mix for Mr. Basketball. I love his, he's such a energetic, tough player, and really played, when they went head to head, I thought, First got the better end of that against Kaufman earlier this season. So,
I was really excited to see, hey, Kyle, I was really excited to see those juniors play the seniors this year with First and Kaufman and Lander. I mean, that's 3 guys right there that I think could have carried. They could have possibly beat the seniors. I don't want to say easily, but it wouldn't have surprised me. That's for sure.
No, I would have loved to have seen that, because I guarantee the seniors too would be tired of hearing about the juniors.
For sure. No doubt about it. I agree.
That's always, that's always fun, because I remember when the 2011 and 12 guys played against each other, and the 11 guys were so sick of hearing about the junior guys, how good they were. And they just went all out. I think it was up at Kokomo. They played each other, and Cody Zeller, it's about 95 degrees in Kokomo's gym, and he's just playing, all out, and it was a great game. I think that's the one that went to sudden death overtime, and they finally ended it. But that's something I remember too, is sometimes those seniors, if you're competitive enough, you're going to get sick of hearing about the other guys and want to go kick their butt. So I was looking forward to seeing how that would have played out as well, the week leading up to the All-Star game.
Well, we got one more Flying Leary left next season up at Carmel, Kyle. So you get one more. You got one more Leary to cover.
Absolutely. That Carmel team, I tell you, that's they obviously had a big turnover from last year's roster, but that team really played well, and I wasn't completely surprised. I thought, they would mesh together pretty well, and of course Ryan Osborne has done a great job there since Scott Hetty left. But that team, if you wanted to get them, this year was probably the year, and not many people did. So that team's only going to be better, not only next year, but I think the year after that too. They've got a good base of players coming, and the beat goes on for the Cromwell Greyhounds for sure.
Kyle, I cannot thank you enough, man, for joining us here today as the All-Stars have been announced. Always love having you on, love talking to you. You are the authority when it comes to Indiana high school basketball, covering for the Indianapolis Star, and we appreciate you, man.
Well, I enjoyed you guys having me on, and it's good to talk about basketball for sure, to get our minds off other things. So I do appreciate you guys having me on, and best of luck to you both.
Absolutely. We'll do it again. So, thanks a lot,
okay.
Kyle. Kyle Nedrow, the Indianapolis Star. You betcha. Joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. We're coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, of course, powered by Rivals. Make sure you go to thehoosier.com and get signed up for a free account. It's still changing over. Maybe if not, if it is, just go to indiana.rivals.com. But we got a lot more coming up. Mike Broughton, the Indiana All-Star Executive Game Director, is going to join us later. But we'll be back talking about Michigan trying to hang a banner, whatever. We're back with more on Indiana Sports Beat right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Speed. When I turn to Hoosiers, you can find it at Bub's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veteran Parkway. Bub's 33 has old burger beer, select list of local brewers, and incredible food select made fresh daily. Whether you can team for that wheel in the family dining area, meet Fritz happy hour with the game on of Bub's 50s. Bubba's 33 Clarksville, pizza, burgers, beer.
We all need smile for championship photos. It's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Selkirk. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Dr. Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just stop by and see 801 Avenue in Sellersburg. 1-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry. 812-246-3366.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn to the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like any other ally, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a vacant alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shad, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors, 765-623-909.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is their new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make it tea time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, coming to you on this Monday from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals. Make sure you go there, get yourself signed up if you're not already there. Lots of content going to be going there. Lots of new riders they have.
Once the world starts up again?
Yeah. Fab Five wasn't to hang a banner. We talked about this a little bit ago. When I saw that,
What would it say? What would it say?
That's the funny thing. I'm like, exactly. I just started laughing because all I could think about was if you ever seen the movie Any Given Sunday?
No.
It's a great football movie. Al Pacino is the coach, and daughter inherits the team from her father, yada yada. And she's wanting to win. I forget what they called their Super Bowl, but Pantheon Cup. You want to win Pantheon? He's like, just win one. Just win one. He's showing her the ring. It's the same thing, man. Just win one. You don't just hang a banner. You win one. You didn't win anything, Jalen. You won nothing. You had a losing record against Indiana. They were 1-3 against Indiana.
They could hang a baggy shorts banner. They led the country in the baggiest shorts for 2 years in a row.
Yep.
There you go. Literally, it's a big accomplishment. It's a big deal to make it to the Final Four 2 years in a row. And I think they made the final game both years and lost both years. But, Butler did the same thing.
Time out.
Butler made the Final Four 2 years in a row, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah,
they came within a whisker of winning a national championship. That shot, oh my gosh, I can't believe that shot didn't go down.
Still to this day, I don't know how that shot didn't bank in.
Would that have been the greatest of all time?
That would
real
have
life
been
Hoosier story.
It would have been a storybook ending that you're like, okay, well, that would never – a half-court shot from a school like that beating Duke would never happen in real life.
That is the movie Hoosiers almost.
It was that close to happening.
it was the weirdest – wow. I remember that. It was crazy, but yeah. You want to hang a banner. But here's the thing that aggravates me even more. He wants because it's a Fab Five. Who cares? You got five. You're gonna bring out five individuals who didn't win anything, who cheated, who ended up getting the school in trouble.
It's a marketing. They could hire a banner for marketing. They changed the marketing at the school on a new
some
level.
Schools, if you've been into a lot of gyms, you understand this. But some schools get banner happy. They'll hang a banner for whatever. Indiana does not do that. You have to win something, and you don't even get your own individual banner half the time. Most of the time, unless you win a national championship, you don't get unless you win a championship, you don't get your own individual banner.
Right. Big Ten championships all just get added to a certain banner at Indiana. A lot of places that would be an individual banner.
Oh, I guarantee it. I'm not trying to call them out, but I remember being down at Cameron Indoor. They had banners all over the place, and it's not because I know that they're good, but they're not that good. They had like 80,000 banners hanging. I'm like, gee whiz, guys, come on. I think they had track banners up, everything.
The Jalen Rose one is, them wanting to hang a banner.
Cracked me up when I saw that.
It is, you know what, truly, it's one of those things where it's like a participation ribbon, in my opinion. If they hang a banner, it's like a participation ribbon because, they got there, but they didn't actually win. And they were great, honestly. Like, if you don't think we didn't try to win that game harder than other games, you're crazy. But, the bottom line to the whole thing is, what they did was pretty incredible, but they didn't win. And that's, hey, we had a team. People talk to me all the time.
Just get ready to bring this very thing up.
If Alan Henderson hadn't gotten, should we have a banner that says we get a national championship with an asterisk that says if Alan Henderson hadn't gotten hurt? Yes, everybody says that to me. Not even Indiana people say that to me. So it's
because there's truth to it. But you're not going to. But you guys are not going to ask to hang a banner up,
right? The bottom line is it didn't happen, and it would never even cross my mind to hang a banner up there. That would be. What's that 25-year reunion going to be? Hey, guys, this is the team that almost won? That'd be so embarrassing.
You know who did get to hang a banner while the Fab Five was there? Indiana for winning a Big Ten championship.
Yep, I know.
So if they want a banner,
that's the amazing part.
They should take a picture. You know what? That would be a great – I wish I need to find that post again and take a picture of the banner of that year and send it. Here's a banner. Hang this one.
You sound like you're taking it a little bit personally.
Well, it just cracks me up that I'm like, I'm not, but it just blows me away. I'm like, God, you really you want to hang a banner? Why? What did you do? What did you do?
That group of people, and the funny part is Juwan Howard. I always say Juwan Morgan and Howard backwards, but Juwan Howard was truly the guy, and I've told you this for years, that Juwan Howard was truly the guy that we game planned for the most. Now, he was probably got the third most notoriety of all them. I mean, Chris Webber got the most, and then Jalen Rose, and then probably Juwan Howard. But he was truly the guy that we had to stop more than anything. And it turns out, when you look at him down the road, the other two, I mean, Jalen Rose is fine. His show's fine, and what he does in the NBA stuff's fine. But I mean, between he and Chris Webber, I mean, they've done nothing but basically embarrass the university since they left there. And Juwan Howard's the guy who, they brought back as a coach, and you would probably be the most proud of out of that five.
Yeah, it cracks me up. You mentioned hanging a banner. I'm like, guys, I don't know that any team that got in trouble for cheating can hang anything.
Yeah.
I mean, had you won anything, they would have taken it down. So I don't know how that team can even think about hanging anything.
Watching yesterday, I watched The Scheme on HBO, which is that documentary on Christian Dawkins and the whole cheating scandal and all that. I was really surprised in the entire thing that the whole Chris Webber thing and $600,000 from Ed Martin and all that was never brought up or even discussed or talked about, but they never said a word about it.
Oh, news. What was the most revealing thing you found that you didn't know already?
In that thing, the fact, the way the whole investigation was done, where the FBI, I mean, truly, I've been involved with so many of those AAU guys because my kids have been involved in AAU for years that I've seen what they're like. I don't feel sorry for Christian Dawkins. I don't think he's looking for anyone to feel sorry for him, but I mean, he kind of put himself in a position to get in trouble. But the FBI investigation was just not done well. I mean, and that's the surprising part. You would think the FBI would handle that in such a great, upstanding way and easy. It would have been an easy thing to prove, to be honest with you. And I was pretty surprised that they didn't do a better job with that.
Tim hit the text line. You can too. That's 812-269-6367. Let's see. Where was he go? I lost it. Somebody was asking there it is. Who's Damon Bailey's son being recruited by? I don't know the answer to that question. He's not being recruited by high majors. I think he's a mid-major. We'll do a recruiting show here soon, but we'll talk about that. Good question, but I know a lot of people ask about that. But he's not being recruited by upper level D1 teams.
He's a 2021er also, right?
I know. I think,
or is he a senior now?
I think he's a senior this year.
Was he a senior?
Yeah, this was his last season. Ended up the number 2 scorer all time at Bedford. Kind of cool.
Behind who?
Yeah. Somebody he knows, I think.
How far behind was he? Like, how many points did he have? Do you know?
You know what? I don't know, but I guarantee it wasn't close. I mean, Damon was out there.
No one finishes close. Like, I mean, Romeo's the only one that finished close. But the fact that they're 1 and 2 is really pretty cool.
It is cool. Yeah, it is very cool at the school. At his school. I mean, it's awesome. But yeah, we'll get on that. Ryan also says, good morning, guys. Hope all is well. What is your prediction for IU football this year? I'm going with 10 wins. This is counting the bowl game. That's very possible because they could have done that last year.
Hey, let's hope they get to play. That's my hope for the team right now. I hope they get to play. I saw a poll, Jeremy Price, who writes for the Bloomington Herald Times. This has been a week or so ago, but there was a poll that came out, early college football poll, and Indiana was 16th. 16th, which I'm not shocked. I'm shocked that they're giving them that credit. And then Jeremy said, funny, he said, well, if you want to know for sure that the football season is going to be canceled, here you go. Indiana starts out preseason number 16. Yeah, that's I don't even want to think about that. I don't know how we could possibly be thinking about that being canceled right now. We're so early on in knowing how long this is going to last.
Of course, I know nothing. None of us know what's going to happen, but I would have to think that there's some good news. I saw that Italy, I think, had the 3rd day of less deaths and things are. It'll get there. It's going to get there. It'll get there, folks. We're going to get there. So, yeah, it may just be a bit, but we will get there and we will get back there. So we'll just stay at it for you. But we got a lot more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat. Mike Broughton, the executive director for the Indiana All-Star Game, is going to join us as that team was announced today. He's a former state champion coach in this state as well down there in Jeffersonville. But looking forward to talking to Mike. We'll be back with more here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by our Rivals. We're back after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
Hey, it's Michael Lewis, former Indiana University player and current UCLA assistant basketball coach, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat.
Where I come from, it's cornbread and chicken. Where I come from.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, powered by Rivals. Joined now by Mike Broughton, the executive director for the Indiana All-Star Game. Mike, thank you, sir, for joining us.
Well, I appreciate it. A lot been going on the last few days, but I appreciate you taking me on here since we picked the All-Star team.
You betcha, man. Mike, of course, you know his name if you're a high school basketball fan, former state champion coach down in my neck of the woods, down there in Jeffersonville, now with the Indiana Basketball Coaches Association, though. But, man, you had some good fun days back when you were coaching, Mike.
Yeah, we won quite a few games. We had a lot of success, and then I went with Coach Collier to the University of Nebraska, and then I was a head college coach for about 5 years. So I've traveled around the world and got to see a lot of basketball, but Indiana high school hoops is the best.
Yeah, I'm fortunate to sit next to a guy every day who got to experience that wholeheartedly. Todd Leary with us, a guy you know pretty well as also.
Yes. Yeah. I saw back in the day, I saw all the IU players. And of course, we had a number of recruits that Coach Knight came down and watched my guys play over the years. And we had Sharon Wilkerson go to IU, and then a couple others almost went there. And so I think I had maybe 9 Division I players in a 4-year period of time. So it was a fun ride.
Yeah. One of your former teammates, Todd.
Yeah, Sharon was one of those guys that came in, and I know how good a coach you had to have been, because when he came in, he already knew help defense and the rotations and half the motion offense. So I know you did a good job. You probably studied a lot of Coach Knight's stuff when you were down there, but Sharon I just saw him, a couple of months ago at a reunion thing, and he's just a person that's fun to talk to. He's got a lot of great stories. He had a lot of good stories about high school and with you, Coach.
Yeah, we had quite a run there. I got there in 90 and I left in 2000, and I think we were 210-39. So, in fact, a guy called me the other day and said, well, you only lost 7 home games in 10 years and you lost 32 on the road. So what should you have done? Did you have done anything different? I said, I should have had more home games.
Played more home games.
Yes, exactly.
Easy answer to that.
Oh, fun times now. And now the All-Star game, unfortunately, not going to be played. We're going through this weird time for all of us, Coach. But thank goodness, and Todd really pointed out, this being able to name that team is of such importance to these kids, because he knows the importance of earning that. And these guys are going to be an All-Star now for the rest of their life.
Well, we're still talking. I know the schools have been canceled, but the director of the Kentucky game, his name is Scott Chalk, and myself, we're going to talk on Thursday. We haven't actually canceled it yet. Now, it doesn't seem like it's going too good the way things are across the country. But, with it being 2 months away and people so hungry for basketball, I'm kind of holding my last hopes. And, maybe there's a cure, or maybe there's something that really works over the next few days. So I told the kids, I said, look, when I called them yesterday, the players, I said, look, there's most likely we're not going to play, but I'm holding out hope, and we'll know by the end of the week. So, like you said, it's not good as everything's being canceled, but I wanted the kids to have a little hope, because it seems like we need to be a little more positive nowadays than all the negativity.
Yeah, and that's I give you an enormous amount of credit for that, because it's it is something. It would be great if it got to be played, but I will tell you, 30 years after the fact, those kids will be introduced as Indiana All-Stars no matter where they go, and that's really going to be the important part. And I hope the game gets played. Trust me, time frame wise, it would work out great. I think your attendance would probably be at an all-time high, given that people haven't had anything to watch. But I commend you and give you a ton of credit for going ahead and making the picks and doing all that, because, one, it gives us something to talk about, but two, these kids it'll stick with them for their entire lives.
Well, it really will. And like I tell them when I talk to them, I traveled about 11,000 miles, and I think there's across the state, I think there's 1,500 to 2,000 seniors. And if you're one of the last 13 in Indiana, and I even tell them when we met last year for the first time, when the team was together for the first time, that you'll actually see people that maybe pass away, that were maybe all-stars in the 50s or 60s, and they'll talk about their employment and what they did in life and their children and grandchildren. But when you read the whole obituary, somewhere along the line it'll say 1957 Indiana All-Star, and right. So yep. You're right, it stays with them for the rest of their life, and it's an important part of Indiana history and the lore of it, because a lot of the past with the one class and all that's gone, but the All-Star games at year 80, so it is pretty important to the people across the state.
We had Kyle Neddenrup on just a little earlier, Coach, and he brought up something that just hit me right away. He talked about, the very thing that we're talking about, how historic this is, but those pictures. I remember as a kid I went to Floyd Central and looking up those old faded color photos of Jerry Hale and Jerry Schellenberg, and you knew exactly. I mean, it said 1971 or 2, whatever, but you knew. I was like, man, those guys were great. And that's the same thing today. When you see a picture of a guy in that jersey hanging in a gym, you know that's greatness.
Well, it is. And then you'll go around the state and see kids play, and you'll find out right away if that school has never had an Indiana All-Star, like Charlie Yoder up at Westview High School, he will be the first player. Now, Westview's had some really good teams. They've won some state championships in class basketball, but he's actually the first pick player from Westview ever to make the All-Star team. So I told him yesterday, I said, I guess you'll have a big picture up on the wall somewhere. And he goes, I probably will. And, you know, in some communities, it's, you know, if they have 15 or 20, you'll see the uniform with the number and the name. But in some places where they've had 2 or 3, it's like you said at Floyd Central, you're going to see the person. And as they age, it doesn't matter. They're still up on the wall. And I've gone to, I don't know, I've probably gone to over 100 schools over the last 2 years doing this job. And very seldom do I see any place that doesn't have them either in the gym or in the hallway coming into the gym. So it is 80 years, and we hope we can make it another 80 if good Lord willing.
Well, you guys have done a great job. And like Todd said, just getting that out, I think that you've just done a lot for Hoosiers, period, because there's not a lot for us right now. And we're trying to keep people entertained each day. But this information that you guys bring out, that's something for people to look at, to talk about, and more importantly, what these guys have earned.
Well, I think starting the year, I have about 50 names when I start out. And then I try to work them down to getting down to 25, then getting down to 20, and then doing a lot of traveling. And, you know, there's probably every year, there's probably 20 to 22 kids that could be an Indiana All-Star when you see them play. And you take in consideration their abilities, and you take consideration their activities at school. And we account their grades a little bit into this because we want good student athletes to represent Indiana. But, you know, the process is you got 13 good ones, but in Indiana, you could actually put a second team together if you wanted to.
I know we were talking to Kyle earlier, like I said, and he meant we were talking about the Mr. Basketball race, which that has not been announced yet, of course, but it'll come off to one of these guys on this team. And normally he said it would be announced at the banquet, which I think would have been May 2nd. It's probably going to be moved up a little bit, he said. So we'll find out who that's going to be probably in a few weeks, I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, I got the votes here. I'm tallying them here this week, and we're going to get the vote out as soon as Kyle and them, the Indianapolis Star, kind of has first dibs on all that. And so we're going to get that out. And of course, we did the Miss Basketball tally and the votes a couple of weeks ago. And so we've got them ready to go whenever the Star's ready. And, you know, there again, Mr. and Miss Basketball is pretty important, whether we play the game or not. It's like you said, it goes down forever as well. And we had the All-Star team, the boys team. If we get to play, it'll be a fun team to watch because we have quickness and we have size and we have shooters. And like I said, it's a pretty good job as the director of the All-Stars when you just go around the state and see the best teams play every night.
It ain't a bad gig, Coach. It's not a bad gig if we can get it. Coach, I cannot thank you enough for joining us. We can't thank you enough for going through all what you guys are going through to make this happen for us. We're all enjoying it and looking forward to seeing who Mr. Basketball is.
Yeah, well, we'll have it out. Probably Kyle's talking about we'll probably have it out at the end of the week or first of next week.
Sounds great, man. Well, Coach, we can't thank you enough. Keep working hard, and we'll keep following you, and we'll stay in contact.
Well, stay in contact if you need anything. I'd love to talk to you again. You have a good day.
Appreciate you. There's Coach Mike Broughton, the executive director of the Indiana All-Star Game, former coach at Jeffersonville High School, state champion. Talking there of the Indiana All-Star team has been released. That'll be out on the Hoosier.com as well. You can get all that. But we'll also be talking about Mr. Basketball. Hopefully that, as you just heard, is probably going to be come out in the next week or so, basically.
Yeah. He kind of let the cat out of the bag there. So now if it doesn't come out, we're going to be calling him up saying, hey, last Monday you said we were going to know who this is. We need some info.
At least we don't have to wait as long until May 2nd as normally would be, but looking forward to that. But, I think that the Mr. Basketball picture and Kyle talked about it, not playing these games out, there's going to be an effect because I think that had Lawrence North won this thing, I think Lawrence North would have had to have won for Anthony Leal to not win this. I think somebody had to win other than Bloomington South, maybe. But you don't know how the votes are going to go. I have no idea how the votes are going to go.
Well,
that's just a guess.
Yeah, and you heard. I think it was Kyle actually who was talking about it. But the way that he described it is what you and I talked about a while back. I mean, with Trey Kaufman and Christian Lander both being really, really good players from Southern Indiana, but they're just juniors. You know, they're not taking votes away from, and Bloomington is considered the southern part of the state to most people. So, you know, I think Anthony has that advantage simply because of the location of where he plays from and the schools they play against. And that's no knock against him. There's probably 3 guys or 4 guys that we could all make an argument for how deserving they are of the award. But it's a big deal. I mean, honestly, winning that award is a big deal. I still, to this day, get introduced as an Indiana All-Star, and I go a lot of places with Pat Graham, and he gets introduced as Mr. Basketball. And there's only one Mr. Basketball every year. So if they've been doing this for 80 years, there's only 80 of them.
Don't forget Mr. Trester Award winner.
And that's a big – yeah. That award lost its luster in 1989.
Well, speaking of Mr. Trester Award winner, I think we may have him on tomorrow to talk to him. I think he's feeling okay, so we're going to try to get him on and have a chat with Mr. Patrick Graham tomorrow. So hopefully we'll see if that happens.
Yeah, he said he's getting to walk about 3 miles a day and he's feeling as good as he's felt in a long, long time. So
he's doing more than we are.
Hey, come on now. How do you know how much
I know you're on the golf course walking. So I know that's a lot. That's a lot. Hey, that's going to pretty much wrap it up for us today, man. We appreciate everybody joining us. Cal Nedrip from the Indianapolis Star, and of course the Mike Broughton, the Indiana All-Star Game Executive Director, joining us here on the program today, as well as the Indiana All-Star Game. Our team has been announced. We'll have all that out. That's going to be over on thehoosier.com as well for you on the Indiana Rivals. So plenty of that there. Tomorrow, hopefully, Pat Graham's going to join us. On Wednesday, Lily King's going to be with us, Olympic athlete. So looking forward to that. Lots more coming up this week. We'll stay on it, continue to try to provide you guys with some entertainment. Todd Leary, go out. I hope you have a wonderful golf game today.
It's going to be awesome. 70 degrees today. I cannot wait.
Well, thanks a lot for joining us. Thanks a lot to Jake and Todd Leary for the rest of you guys. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.